This is the next episode. This is the next episode of the Readers Are Leaders show. I am here with Orlando Perez.
Hey.
He is a good buddy of mine. He runs a show on Tuesday nights at Joey Bat's Cafe here in New York City. Orlando is a comedian, as am I. I don't think I talk about that ever, even though everyone who has been on the show has been comedians. I just kind of figured that the audience kind of takes that for granted. Okay, so a woman from Vermont, she ran recently, a woman from Vermont ran 95 marathons in 95 days. And she is in my mind the gangbanger of marathon running. That's she's the gangbanger of marathon running.
That's good.
So yeah.
No.
Oh, go. He ran.
My friend ran.
Yeah.
The marathon that just passed.
Yeah. Oh,
the marathon.
All right.
Yeah.
That's
It's
exciting.
like the first. It's always the first.
I want to take edibles and walk a marathon. Walk a marathon.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah. There was a fight on a Southwest airline jet again recently. There's a lot of fights on a lot of these different airline jets now, and I gotta tell you, they're like the airline. What it is rich people are going to space now, and so just regular flying. That's like a Greyhound now. It's like a Greyhound bus, and now. It used to be when you rode a Greyhound, people would fight and yell.
Yeah.
Now that's happening in the sky because rich people are going to space, and they're not fighting and yelling in space, and they're only doing it in the sky. And on a Greyhound now, it's even worse. You get your butthole fingered on a Greyhound. That's and you yell out, "Stop fingering my butthole!" And the driver may yell while driving, "Hey, stop fingering that person's butthole." As it's happening to you, but then the driver doesn't care about you, just keeps on driving even though you're getting your butthole fingered.
It's like a Greyhound.
So yeah, but people are yelling in the sky. That's it's the bus. Southwest is the bus of the air. That is okay.
Hitchhiking. Imagine that. That's subhuman right there.
Yeah, well that always was. That always was. So Elon Musk is trolling Bernie Sanders about this whole billionaire issue, and about billionaires paying tax. I always get weirded out with politicians that they go, the problem is that billionaires aren't paying taxes, and then like everyone goes, well, make them pay tax. Everyone goes, make them pay taxes, and then politicians on both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, go, no, we can't. A bunch of people don't want that to happen, and like Democrats are like, Republicans don't want billionaires to be taxed, and then Republicans are like, our people don't want billionaires to be taxed. But here's the thing: I've never met that person. I've never met anyone who doesn't want billionaires to be taxed. I'm fairly certain it's only billionaires. And I guess the whole thing is that they'll leave and they'll take their money with them. That's the thing. But we get none of their money, so who cares? I don't. I guess the whole thing is like if we tax them 1%, then like the Bahamas will be like, or Ireland. Or another country will be like, oh, we'll do like 0.5% if we do 1%, and so we don't want to. Then it's just a race to the bottom, no matter where these people go. But I say then fine, like let's see what that looks like, because right now they're paying nothing. Here's the crazy thing: it's all about how we don't want them to leave, right? We don't want these billionaires to leave, so we don't tax them because we want them to stay and not leave. Because, and this is the craziest thing, we just like being able to say that Elon Musk is American, which I don't even think he is. I think he's South African. So that's like the weird part about it. I think we just get a kick that he left South Africa and now claims residency in the United States and probably has a U.S. passport and is an American citizen. I think he is. I think he kind of like, he bought citizen, no, he didn't buy it, just got here and just whatever the channels are. Yeah. He is a citizen now, and we just like saying that we're that cool that even when people who have the smarts to become billionaires are born in another country, we like it even that they just came here. And we fostered that money, and we don't want to lose that clout. We're literally taking, like, we're all just as a country. That's sad.
That's pretty sad.
That is sad.
Sad.
We just want to know that
Elon's right here.
he's with us. Yeah. We just want to know that if there's a rich person Olympics, he's on our team.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. I say let him go.
That's crazy.
I say let him be Irish. Let him deal with drunken Irish people because they may promise him lower taxes at first, but then once the booze starts flowing and he's there,
they're gonna be like, what?
Yeah, and then it's a small country. He has no place to. Here in the United States, at least you can dodge.
And everyone's like a redhead over there, isn't it? Aren't they?
Yeah, a lot of redheaded people. I think. Yeah. There's like redhead's kind of weird. There's the Jewish people are redheaded, Irish people are redheaded. That's
Canelo Alvarez, the greatest current Mexican boxer, redhead.
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, Mexico is just that's just a colonized place like the U.S. So Mexico just has everybody. That's people think that everyone from Mexico is brown. When you go, no one's brown. No. Everyone is white. It's
literally USA without as many black people.
Yeah.
Mexico also had slaves, and they either killed them, the European the slaves. They killed them or they sent them
somewhere. And of course, racism exists. So there's the Incan and Aztec people, right? You know what I mean? And then of course,
Mayans.
Yeah, and of course, but that's the people that we see trying to sneak in the border are the poorest people in Mexico, and of course, they are a lot of times descendants of Indian people because just like in the United States, tragically, we in the United States treat our Indian people, our Native Americans, like dog shit, and so other countries do too. Both the United States and Mexico, we treat our Indian people like dog shit, and then the Indian people there will run over here, and then people in the United States think that that's all Mexicans, and it's no, dude, it's just all European people over there. When you go there, it's just all white people. It's not brown people or red. I guess people always say that Inca and Aztec people are brown, but wouldn't they be like if you want to put a color to them, wouldn't they just be Indian people? Wouldn't they be
Native
red?
American?
Yeah,
Native American.
They'd be red technically, right?
I'm not technically.
But if you put in a color, you know what I mean? Yeah, not technically.
It's. I feel like my color is kind of like a regular standard.
But you maybe have some Indian blood in you, but you don't have a lot.
I have a little bit of everything. So it's similar to USA where...
Because you look very European, in my mind. You look very European.
I have some. I definitely have some.
Okay.
But I also have indigenous, Native American, Native Mexican American. Because Mexico is in America, the continent. So it's we're also Native Americans there, and which would be the Aztecs and the Incans and the Mayans. Nothing, because the Incans are in Peru, but the Aztecs and the Mayans, and then other little ones on top, where Monterrey is at, and
but was there that much mixing between the Indian people and the Spanish and the European people?
The Spanish, yeah.
Yeah, was there? Because you wouldn't just be all Spanish on a DNA test,
me. No.
Really?
No.
Really?
Yeah, my grandparents look like indigenous.
No way. Because you look like super European to me, in my mind.
Because there's let's say my father's father, he was pretty European looking.
Got it.
So it's just all. I never even met him. That's just what I heard. Because my father actually he lived with a stepfather, with my grandmother and a stepfather. So I never met the biological father.
Yeah.
But yeah, and actually even my stepfather I never met him. I was 2 when he died. So I only have, and then from my other side, my grandma's pretty from my mom's side. My grandma's pretty also indigenous Indian looking.
Yeah.
Native American. But my grandfather, he also looks pretty indigenous, but he also has in Spanish you say rasgos, European features. So it's mixed, for sure my grandfather had Spanish and French blood, no doubt.
Yeah.
And then my from my dad's side, his biological father also. So then that's why I guess you would say oh, you look European, but in my mind I look Mexican. That's just because that's what I am and that's what I feel. That's what I see. But to you,
I feel like a lot of weed too. So
I feel maybe you see let's say the delivery guys, the small, really really small guys. You'd be oh, that's more indigenous or Indian, right? Native American.
I guess I guess I would identify it, if I am to be honest. Shorter features. Shorter features.
But I'm pretty short.
I guess, but you know, I don't know. I know Europeans like kind of like with your build. You know what I mean? So I would say to be stereotypical about Indian Mexican people, I would say very 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 short.
A little more brown.
A little more brown than you, and definitely like you have a boxy frame, but like sometimes even stocky. Like. Yeah, even stockier than you a lot of times. I would say a lot of, but I don't know though, because here's the thing. This is the tragic part about it, is that Europeans murdered a lot of Indian people, and so that isn't necessarily, of course, a representation of what Indian people would have looked like. It's literally that all the tall dudes got killed. Which is tragic. That is like the tragic part about history. That history. Yeah, totally. On that note, where did we even start? We started. So we have another sketch this week. I don't know what the sketch is going to be yet, but we'll figure it out. It might even be you. I might even include your sketch in with the episode. Yeah, we'll be back. Yay! Enjoy.
This is cool. Hello, my name is Orlando Perez, and I have a chode. For those of you that don't know what a chode is, it is when your penis is wider than it is long. My penis is 5.5 inches long and 6 inches, you guessed it, wide. My penis looks like a giant Lego brick turned sideways. My penis is shaped like a Pepsi bottle cut in half. Not to be mistaken with a Coke bottle, which is shaped weird. My penis is uncircumcised, which makes it look like it's wearing an XL hoodie. My penis is so wide, I have sex with whales.
Today we are talking about Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. Yeah. And I read it, and so I'm going to give a recap of the book, and then I'm going to tell you my thoughts on it, and then I want you to tell your thoughts and why it's your favorite book, and then and then I'll be that. Yeah. So this is a book where it starts off with this Dr. Frankenstein. I think he's Victor Frankenstein, right? So yeah, it starts off with this guy Victor Frankenstein. He's this doctor, and he is hunting this creature that he invented, that he made. And he gets taken aboard the ship in the Arctic, and he starts to tell this dude on the ship his story. The story goes like this. He's a kid. When he's a kid, he's an only child, and his parents then adopt this other chick named Elizabeth. And they're like, Elizabeth is not your sister, she's your cousin, but they kind of adopt her. And they're like, one day you're going to marry Elizabeth. They're not blood relatives. What?
Can I interject?
Yes, go ahead.
In the original version, she is his cousin, blood cousin, in the 1818 version. And then they made a second version, 1830 something. And they're like, oh no, she's not your cousin. Like we adopted you.
Oh no way! Okay, well in the version
that's the more commonly read one. Actually.
Yeah. She was adopted. That is fascinating. But I guess people back then in like the 1700s, 1800s, I think they married cousins back then. I think that's just what
especially like I guess like
that's who you knew. I think I don't know. I think they definitely
amongst royalty they did it for sure.
Yeah, for sure amongst royalty. And I think even in the common folk of the time, I think tended to do it.
Just they're the people around.
I think they just tried to. I think scientists back then were like, yeah, as long as it's the third cousin, it's fine. I guess I don't even know what science would be. I don't know. What I don't know how many cousins you science wise is fine.
Imagine there's like a scientist.
I don't know what's legal.
Imagine there's like a scientist out there trying to like figure out when the appropriate. So he's like, for science reasons,
he's trying to marry his cousin.
He's like, all right,
he's just in
this
love
child
with
is like,
he's in love with this.
The child
cousin.
came out a little fucked up, so not this cousin. We got to see the second cousin.
Oh,
the third cousin.
Well, I imagine at some point they did at some point in human history, maybe like Moses times or something. Before that, even somebody had to start logging how marriage needs to work for evolution health. Anyway, so long story. So anyway, she they adopt this Elizabeth.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
And they're like, one day you're gonna marry this Elizabeth who we adopted. And so in the book I read, she's not blood related to him at all. And anyway, long story short, he becomes obsessed with, so that's his childhood. Then he becomes obsessed with science. And he's like, I'm gonna make a being. I'm gonna make a sentient being that's stronger than a human. And that's physically stronger than a human. And so he does. He makes a sentient being that's physically stronger than a human. And when he makes it, it scares the shit out of him. And he runs away. And then the being runs away. This new monster that he's created. It's effectively a monster because there's no other being like it. So it might as well be a bear. A sentient bear. And this being, this creature runs away. And he basically, through secretly observing the world, starts to learn our language, starts to learn, because it can learn, it's a sentient being, and learns language, it learns human traits, and there's a blind, he basically spies on this one family in this cabin in the woods, and there's a blind dude that lives there, and he befriends this blind guy, and so he learns how to communicate with humans. But when he finally tries to reveal himself to this family, they treat him like a monster and they run away. So he's bitter. He's bitter because he's been shunned by the world. But now he basically has this manuscript that he left the lab with when he was created, and it says Frankenstein on it. So he's like, okay, this must be my creator. He goes and he's like, I'm going to find my creator. So he goes to look for his creator, eventually finds like his creator's nephew or niece, something like that, and basically is like, tries to kidnap the Victor Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein's nephew or niece, whatever it is, and basically tries to kidnap this nephew or niece, and ends up murdering the nephew or niece. I don't think he wanted to murder the nephew or niece. Just ends up doing it. And anyway, then is basically, but like basically then it's like, but like he just basically he feels like, oh, my creator deserves this because my creator abandoned me. So even though I accidentally murdered my creator's niece or nephew, whatever it was, he deserves it. I forget. Nephew, I think. Anyway, this other woman gets blamed for the murder, and she and she like gets imprisoned, and then this other woman dies of heartbreak because of it. Like the nephew's mom dies of like heartbreak because of it. And anyway, so Dr. Frankenstein goes and finds this creature and says, okay, I'm going to kill you now because you killed my nephew. And so the creature is like, hey, but I did that because you abandoned me. And what I want you to do to make this all better for me, which I'm kind of your child because you created me. You need to make me a wife. And then Dr. Frankenstein is like, okay, if I make you this wife, you'll leave me alone, right? And he's like, yes, make me his wife and I'll leave you alone. And so he's just like, I just want to get laid. And this creature's like, I need a wife, I need to get laid. And so then what happens is that Dr. Frankenstein starts to make this guy a wife, but then he says to himself, hey, what if I create this wife and then this wife doesn't want to be with this creature, and so now this creature feels abandoned by me and heartbreak from being rejected by this creature that I'm making, because there's no guarantee that this woman is going to want to be with him, which I'm like, she probably will though. She probably will. There's no other else like her. So I don't think she's gonna develop a relationship with God and she's the nunnery. You know what I mean? Maybe. But anyway, he decides. So he then destroys this female creature that he's creating for this dude. He destroys this female creature, and then what happens is effectively afterwards the creature sees this. The creature then says, "When you marry Elizabeth, your soon-to-be wife, I'm going to murder Elizabeth." And then that happens. He marries Elizabeth, and on the night of the wedding, this creature murders Elizabeth. So then the creature goes on the run. Everyone chases after him, all the town folk, and Dr. Frankenstein. And Dr. Frankenstein keeps on chasing him until he gets to the Arctic, where we're now back on the boat, where he gets onto this boat where we began the story, where he gets rescued onto this boat. and he dies on this boat. And he tells the story to this dude, the captain of the boat, before he dies. And so then after he dies, the creature appears. And the captain's like, you're a bad person. You ruined this guy's life. And then the creature gives this long speech about how like my life was just ruined from the get-go. I was abandoned. Everyone is concerned about his suffering, and no one is concerned about my suffering when I'm the one who was traumatized and abandoned. And then it ends. And I related to this. I definitely have trauma from my childhood. And I feel that trauma has created a lot of anger inside of me.
Yeah.
And so I definitely blame those who inflicted the trauma on me with placing that anger inside of me. And so I definitely related to this story in that way personally. And so yeah, it gave me a lot to think about. A lot of his that this experience. That experience is a common experience, an experience of having lifelong anger because of childhood trauma. And it's a very interesting way to talk about. I mean, it's definitely an allegory for God, but I think on a deeper level, humans relate to it because when we're children,
not being understood, not being wanted, not being...
Yeah, when we're children, the collective world or adults or the collective world kind of parents us. And when we're let down by that, it creates a lot of anger, a lot of lifelong anger issues.
A lot of abandonment, just like being left on your own.
Stuff like that, all that stuff.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, just to me, it was also just about like society and how like we're all like we're not willing to accept new things or new ideas or new ways. Like when Frankenstein was introduced to the family in the cottage or whatever, like just because I guess kind of like relating to Shrek, which is my favorite movie. Like, you know, I remember he's like, you guys just judge me without even getting to know me. And like that's kind of like how the creature was. Where it's like he was just trying to like he was collecting freaking for the cottage. I remember like he got to learn the language. He got to learn. He built a relationship with the blind guy. You know, and like I remember he was like getting wood for them, and like he was like not taking their food anymore because they knew that they were.
I didn't remember feeling hope for him in that moment.
Me too.
Felt a lot of
I was
hope.
like, oh, maybe he might find this might be his community that accepts him or whatever.
Yeah.
And then of course it turns up no, you know, it's like it's not possible. Yeah. And of course the friend that he did make was the blind guy that couldn't see his physical
ugliness. Yeah.
So it's kind of like also going along with that with like just kind of like not being accepted or not being able to connect. The thing with he saw Victor Frankenstein as his father. Yeah. And not accepting him. And then, I guess like and then Victor also just like Victor was this sad man. Like he got obsessed with the science and just obsessed with like glory, like, you know, playing God. I want to be like God. I want to play I want to be amazing. I want to be the greatest scientist in the whole world. And then like he literally just everyone else was no longer like important in his life. It was just him and science. And I don't know, it's just like that's pretty sad. And just all these little connections, you know, that I see, and I'm just kind of like, oh yeah.
You're right, his obsession with science
turned into it ruined his
prison.
Life. Yeah, and it was a prison.
And it became a mandatory obsession. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. It became this mandatory obsession. His obsession turned into a passion that
led to his demise.
Yeah, that turned into madness.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Great book. Great book.
Great book.
Great book. Very moving. Great. Buffalo Springfields for what it's worth. Let's do it.
Do it.
There's something happening in here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware.
I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.